welcome to Weekly Wisdom with me, Damali. Today, I just want to talk to you about self-respect. I think I want to talk to people who mostly are very kind, giving, or is bending over backwards to please other people. It's a very good and noble thing to have, but I think sometimes when you're doing it at the expense of your own well-being, it becomes a problem because you don't necessarily have healthy boundaries. So you easily lose yourself just for the sake of helping other people. So I'm going to talk to you about how to build the self-respect for your own self-respect, so that you don't have to end up in a place where your relationships are suffering or you are suffering because you don't respect yourself in relationships. And the reason why is that when you are interacting with people in a place where if you don't respect yourself, you're not going to feel good about yourself. And that inner critic inside of you is just going to scream louder than you've ever heard it before, meaning that something is wrong with you. And now, for some of you that have never been exposed to temperament is something that helps you to identify what your natural tendencies may be, where you find yourself behaving in ways that are not what other people may tend to behave, even if the situation is the same. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is there is a temperament called supine. A supine tendency has a supine temperament has a way of feeling as though that they're always an inconvenience and there's something always wrong with them. And when they're interacting in relationships, they tend to feel as though they are the problem and they are such a burden to other people. So they tend to apologize all the time for their existence. So if you're always feeling like that, you have no respect for yourself because you see yourself as the problem, that you're a burden. So what are some of the ways that we can have effectiveness in self-respect? I'm going to share with you in what in DBT they call the FAST, FAST skills, so that you can build upon your self-esteem. So the first one is the F. The F stands for being fair, Be fair to yourself and be fair to other people, Consider times when you hold yourself or others with unreasonable standards. So, for example, I'm using the example of a supine temperament who always feels like there's something wrong with them. They are such a burden and they're such a burden and inconvenience. If you put that into a place where if it's reasonable, why would you be the only one out of the group of 5 or 10 or whatever the number may be that you identify yourself as the only problem, that you're the only one who has a problem? And I know this is almost like scratching the surface. There is so much more to what we experience. So I'm not trying to go deep into this particular teaching with this, knowing that we all have our own different traumatic reactions and experiences that we've gone through. But I'm just talking on a surface level, some of the things that you can learn about self-respect. Be reasonable in your expectations or the standards that you put on yourself so that you can be rational, right? So sometimes we put people on pedestals and we think that they are almost God, like they have this God complex that we are just trying to measure up to their standards. They are so better than us, and so what is wrong with us that we are even in the room with them? So that we try to talk ourselves into being in the room with those people. So just be fair to the standards that you put on yourself and other people, and just see everyone as a human being. Everyone is trying to do the best that they can, including yourself, so that you don't X yourself out of the people who are trying to do good. The other thing that you want to learn to do is with the A, meaning that the A stands for learning not to always apologize. Like I say, the supine, and I'm using the supine example because it's very easy to identify with. They're always apologizing. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you've ever met people like that. I've seen this when they come into my in sessions with me. It's their time. They made the appointment and it's their time. God forbid they came in the session like a minute late or two. They're going to apologize. I'm so sorry for wasting your time. I'm so sorry. Basically, like, something is wrong with me. You should tolerate me. You shouldn't even be here with me. I'm so grateful that you're here with me. That tendency to apologize for things that should not necessarily be it takes away from your self-respect and self-esteem. It doesn't make you feel good if you're constantly apologizing for things that you shouldn't do. And it sounds good to apologize, but some apologies are not needed. They are not necessary. You cannot apologize for being yourself. You cannot apologize for being in a room with a person. So if you find yourself as one of those people who always apologize, please learn to be mindful that you don't easily apologize. And sometimes for people who quickly apologize, they never take responsibility to make changes that they need to make in their lives because they always take the ownership of what is wrong. So they never give the other person permission to correct their mistakes or even identify what the mistakes are. So it may sound good, but in long term, if you're constantly the one apologizing in the relationship, by default, that relationship may even die or not work out. Why? Because you never deal with the issues that need to be dealt with. Okay, so we go to the other one, the S. Remember the acronym is FAST, FAST. The F stands for being fair. The A stands for don't apologize all the time. And now we're going to the S, which stands for stick to your values. I love the concept of values. Like in my program, I have a program that I teach. It's called My Path to Purpose. And a lot of people struggle with identifying what their purpose in life is. But one of the things that we deal with is identifying what your values are. It's very difficult to know what is important to you if you don't even know it. So it sounds very interesting. It may look like a very simple thing, but if you never take time to really identify what values you hold dear, because the decisions that we make those decisions based upon what we consider to be valuable to us. Values are the things that we deem important, and we are willing to sacrifice. Something is considered valuable if we're willing to make sacrifices for it. So just because I say that integrity is my value doesn't mean that it's true, unless I'm willing to sacrifice for that value. Then I can identify with it as my own value. So take time to identify what your own individual values are so that when you're making decisions, you're making decisions that are in alignment with what your values are so that you can develop more self-respect. Okay, the last thing is being truthful. Okay, I love this one because it's very easy to play the games of measuring up and trying to convince people who you are that you're not in your own core of your being. So being truthful, meaning that avoid the lies and the excuses and instead take responsibility for your choices and be accountable for yourself and for others, So if you're being honest with yourself, if you don't, let's say someone invites you to go out with them for lunch, for dinner, or any other thing. I'm just using this to make a point. And you don't feel like you have the energy to go there. If you lie to yourself, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go to that outing, but you're going to be miserable. You're probably resenting them in your heart because you're like, why am I here? I should be sleeping. Why don't they understand that I'm exhausted? But you never said anything. So they would not know that that's how you feel. So when you're honest with yourself, you're able to recognize that, you know what, I'm exhausted. As much as I would love to hang out with you, I need to go and I need to rest. Or I have so many other things that I need to do. At this point, I'm not able to come. So that you can turn down the offer without interpreting it as you're a bad person. So when you don't maintain that truthfulness inside of you, not only are you lying to yourself, but you're lying to the people who you hang out with. And sometimes this is how we find relationships falling apart. And we ask ourselves, how did we get here? We didn't even know that this is how this person was feeling in the first place. Why? Because these people were not honest. And so if you're honest with yourself, one thing about it is that you can easily identify when a person is not necessarily honest with themselves because you can see it in their emotions, in their body language. So not to take too much time out of this, I just want to encourage you to grow into self-respect. There is a difference between respecting yourself and also being arrogant. I'm not talking about being arrogant and prideful. There is a very significant difference because you will not be of any value to anyone if you look at yourself like the scum of a scumbag. Like everyone can trade over you and you're like nothing. You have so much value and you need to take time to identify who you are your identity so that you can identify with yourself in a healthy way as opposed to always identify with what is wrong with you. So thank you again for listening. Subscribe, forward it to a friend, like it, comment, and put the notifications on so that every time I release out a video, you'll be among the first people to know about it. And again, check out my website, Forerunner Counseling, for those of you that are struggling with this particular area about self-esteem and self-respect. I'll definitely help you navigate not only your temperament, but I'll also help you to know how to navigate to build your self-esteem. So thank you again, and I'll talk to you.